It's All In Weekend. We are just around roughly 12 hours away from All In London. And we are here to Retrospective Rewind. Very special rant looking back at the first ever and only up until tomorrow, the only All In event, the one that kicked everything off in history as far as basically AEW even being an entity. It started right here almost 5 years ago with All In 2018. Oh my God, this is going to be a fun rant because this was a fun show to rewatch. I had not seen All In on literally since the evening of the pay-per-view. I had ordered it live at that point, I think on Fight TV. There wasn't any of the replay available at the time or something. There's something going on where I couldn't watch a replay of it. It was a one-time shot. Maybe I ordered it off DirecTV, perhaps. I can't remember the logistics exactly. But long story short, I had not seen this show since the night it actually happened. So, was not at the event live, but ordered it on pay-per-view. Just a fun show to watch back live tonight. Good, solid 4-hour event, and so much rich history involved in this show as we're leading into the next iteration of All In, another level in AEW history. This kicked it all off. All In tomorrow is going to set a benchmark for this company. It's going to be interesting to see where things go from there, including what exactly gets built for All Out literally next weekend that I will be at as well. In fact, a week from tonight, I'll be at Collision in Chicago. 5 shows in a row in Chicago. Dynamite, just got my ticket tonight for that as well. 7th row lower level, right by the ring. So there's going to be some good content from Dynamite starting on Wednesday all the way through to All Out the following Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. I'm heading back to Chicago, getting back into the tradition once again that is All Out Week. But let's back it up a little bit and get going with All In. This, of course, was the first successful independent pro wrestling show in perhaps history. Over 10,000 people sold out at the time. The Sears Center, now the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Actual attendance sold out to capacity with 11,263 in attendance. They were a lively crowd, very much a Chicago crowd, no question. Over 50,000 pay-per-view buys for this one as well. That really caught the attention of the industry at the time. It's a big deal between the sellout and the talk and the buzz of the industry, along with the buy rate. It was no questions about it, a major, major success. We saw where things went from here. Tony Khan hooked up with the Young Bucks, Cody, Kenny Omega, etc., through this event, essentially, and All Elite Wrestling was formed soon after this, at the beginning of 2019, only about 4 months after this event. All Elite Wrestling kicked off on the 1st of January with that announcement, and of course, Double or Nothing was technically the first AEW event, but looking back at this show, it felt like an AEW show. It more or less was the unofficial first show for AEW before they became incorporated, essentially, but the structure was still already set and ready to go as far as this show went for All In. It felt at its core like an AEW show, essentially. There was a couple matches on the pre-show to talk about. I guess first and foremost, to kick off the pre-show, which aired on WGN, if you recall, the Bucks and Cody Rhodes came out. Pomp and circumstance ensued, and of all people, Road Warrior Animal came out in a motorcycle. So there you go. Kind of interesting because I just watched SummerSlam 92 from Wembley Stadium earlier today, and that same exact thing happened to kick off SummerSlam 92. The Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, came out in motorcycles. Well, to kick off the All-In pre-show, same day I'm watching, is Road Warrior Animal with the Young Bucks of all people and Cody Rhodes. So very odd thing, and just some viewing patterns of mine today with this stuff. First actual match on the pre-show for All In 2018 was the Briscoes against SoCal Uncensored. That's Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. Pretty solid opener. It was what it was. I thought it was just a crowd was way into this, and SoCal Uncensored did go over. Briscoes tried the Doomsday device. It kind of got reversed by Kazarian, who I believe got if I recall, it was like a small package or a power slam pin of some sort for the finish there. Then we had the over-budget Battle Royal, which I won't go into all the names. 19 competitors. Flip Gordon, there's a name that really you don't hear much anymore. He won the Battle Royal for a Ring of Honor Championship title shot later on the show against Jay Lethal. I think it was like the 8th match on pay-per-view, so it's pretty deep in the card. And this was a really well booked Battle Royal. I really enjoyed this one. Bully Ray was a big part of this one, as well as Jordan Grace. This was her first kind of look to the mainstream audiences, their big kind of standout type of match. She came across really well in it. It's a lot of really well booked parts to this. They called it the over budget Battle Royal. After that, then we go to All In, the actual pay-per-view, the national anthem. And then we get In Riccaboni, Excalibur, they are main commentators, and most of the night is also Don Callis, who's not really working heel. Everybody's doing like a straight babyface type of deal on commentary here, more to put over the idea of All In, I think, as a grassroots effort. They really didn't get too gimmicky in the announcing end of it. It was just pretty much straightforward stuff from all three. Occasionally, Don Callis would step out. There'd be different commentators that'd be coming in on, I guess, kind of situations. Also, the ring announcing, we had Bobby Cruz from Ring of Honor. This was more or less a Ring of Honor production. They used the ROH production team. ROH owned the footage to this. This is, I was able to watch this actually through Honor Club. So that was a nice touch that, for $10, pop that on and get to relive All In. Finally, after all this time, I'll probably be watching that the 3-match series of Joe and Punk as well, leading into All In tomorrow. That's my plan. After doing this rant, I'm going to check out Collision and then probably get into a little Joe Punk nostalgia, as it were, to lead into All In tomorrow. So, getting back to this show, All In 2018, we kick off the show with, we talked about Bobby Cruz, ring announcing from Ring of Honor, and Justin Roberts. So this is yet another example of all Elite Wrestling kind of structure already there, already set, ready to go, even for this first event before AEW was even formed. First match on All In was very interesting looking back. You may have heard it on commentary by MJF recently on Dynamite that he was actually in the opening match at All In 2018 against Matt Cross. And a pretty good opener. I really enjoyed this one. Matt Cross did win with a shooting star press for the finish, but this was just a taste of what was to come for MJF. And look at 5 years later where things are now. Unbelievable. From literally the opening match at All In on the pay-per-view to the main event 5 years later in front of the biggest crowd in modern wrestling history. It's going to end up being his last tally of All In tomorrow. We'll talk about a little more on laying the rant down quite late tonight that we have 81,253 around there. tallied for All In currently, so that would put it officially as the highest attendance overall that would oversee WrestleMania 32, but still no word on where the actual paid attendance number lines up near the end. We won't know that until after the showcase. Then in the back after this match, we had Nick Aldis with Sean Mooney. Sean Mooney was one of the main backstage kind of interviewers on this show. Next match with special referee Jerry Lynn was a very surprising match I kind of forgot about until I rewatched this show. But Christopher Daniels over Stephen Amell of Arrow and the wrestling show Heels, real tight with Cody. He's basically part of the Bullet Club at this point. This was freaking good. Still, Stephen Amell was this was like his third match in wrestling, a little clunky, a little rigid. But all in all, I thought Daniels carried him fantastically in this one. Daniels won with the best moonsault ever for the finish. But like I said, really good stuff. There was a spot outside the ring where Amell took an elbow drop through a table and he missed Daniels on. Just a good laid out match for sure. Mandy Leon and Tennille Dashwood joined commentary for, ironically, looking back, we have a four-way match for the AEW Women's Championship tomorrow at All In Wembley Stadium, but the first All In also had a four-way women's match that, quite honestly, was very good. This may have been right up there as in the top echelon of the best matches on the card, I feel. It was Tessa Blanchard, who, boy, what has 5 years done to Tessa Blanchard, folks? Stuck in XPW, apparently, is what's up with Tessa Blanchard. Nobody wants to look at her. We know all the history with Tessa Blanchard. But she went over in this four-way match over Chelsea Green, Britt Baker, and Madison Rain. This was good. I thought the women really, really looked great in this one. Everybody came across looking much like a star. And the finish was a little bit off. It was like someone was trying to break up the pin, but the pin still happened. A little bit off. Hammerlock DDT. Tessa Blanchard hit, I believe it was Chelsea Green from the finish. And Britt Baker particularly came off looking real good in this match. Ironically, as one of the anchors of the AEW Women's Division, she really had a nice showcase in this one at the first All In. After that, we had another announcing change with the announcing booth. A gentleman named Brett Tarring, one or the other, but apparently he announced Cody Rhodes' first actual match that he ever did. So Cody brought him in for this. It was a very awkward way of commentary with this gentleman and Excalibur, as well as Riccaboni, and just this guy was full of cliches and whatnot, but it was for Cody. So what do you say on that? The match itself for the NWA Championship, this is a rewatch match for sure. Cody Rhodes winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship over Nick Aldis. This was a classic match. Boy, the crowd was just electric here. And unquestionably, I mean, when you look back at history, this is where the Cody Rhodes revolution, if there be such a thing, it started right here at All In this match. The crowd was electric and engaged for the story of Cody Rhodes honoring his father, trying to get this big win, to live the dream, to be world champion. It started right here at All In. What they've been doing in WWE and are maybe building for it to Philadelphia is essentially just another level of this same storyline that they played really well here at All In. Each guy had their own team out of legends. Jeff Jarrett was with Nick Aldis. Cody had DDP, Tommy Dreamer, Ray Lloyd Glacier, who's, I think, part of the Nightmare Family training team. I mean, it was quite pomp and circumstance for this match. Lots of tradition. It felt like Earl Hebner was the referee. This just was laid out really well. This hit all the buttons to me of a successful, really a classic match that stands the test of time. And it really played well to the tradition of the NWA as well. This just was such a good match. Cody going over. There's a couple spots of note. There was a elbows drop spot that Brandy Rhodes kind of put her, got in the way of. She was laying on top of Cody as Aldis did a top rope elbow. That was a pretty wild spot. And then just the finish itself was pretty good, a reverse roll-up kind of sequence that Cody ended up winning. And what I liked about this as well was the presentation behind it. Cody wins, and the music doesn't hit right away. The crowd lets it sink in. The announcers let it sink in. It felt like a big deal. The post-match felt like a big deal. They took just a moment after the match to kind of, again, just let it sink in the way the announcers played it up. It made it feel like a big deal as it should have felt. And I just thought this was just well produced. Very well produced. Both guys looked great in there. Excellent stuff all around. Then after a little bit of a break, we move into the Chicago Street Fight. This was pretty wild, pretty fun looking back at it. This is a match I kind of forgot about. Hangman Adam Page against Joey Janela with Penelope Ford. Man, this was good. The Cracker Barrel spots were fun. The Burning Hammer on the ladder spot was wild. What can you say about that? This running power bomb that Hangman Page did to Janela, that he barely cleared the steps because they had like a half ramp, then steps, and then the rest was just an entranceway to the ring. A couple tables were laid out on the entranceway right by the steps, and he almost, well, he certainly didn't make the second table. He barely hit the first table. This was a terrible bump. Poor Joey Janela. See where he's gone in the last 5 years too, from crazy spots like this. Really, youch. But good match, really fun match for sure. Finished as well, the rite of passage on the ladder to the table. Damn, what can you say? One thing to note with this match, on the Honor Club feed version of All In, which is going to be on DVD and Blu-ray soon as well. They're just doing pre-sales on that through the AEW website and Pro Wrestling Tees, etc. But they completely edited and cut off and omitted all the stuff with the Joey Ryan storyline and post-match stuff after the finish of Hangman Page and Janela. All that is completely cut and like it never happened. So there you go. Didn't surprise me. I kind of figured they were going to do that, but sure enough, they did. After this spot, they immediately cut, like I said, took all the Joey Ryan and the dicks and all that shit, and whatever the stuff is, the whole storyline, cut from this. So they go right after the finish of Adam Page. They just kind of cut to the back. They show Jay Lethal turning into Macho Madness again with the help of Leaping Lanny Poffo, as we know. Had his glasses. Lethal gets kind of put into some Macho Madness work from Lanny Poffo, and he is once again in his Black Machismo gimmick. For the next match is the Ring of Honor title match with Flip Gordon and Jay Lethal. Pretty well good match. I mean, back at this point, Flip Gordon was a decent worker, and it's just sad to see what the fuck happened with him. I mean, is he even working NWA anymore? I don't even know where he is and what he's doing anymore. I think that he was at the Ric Flair, the last match of Ric Flair on that card, but that may have been the last I'd heard of him or seen from him. This was kind of a wild match in the post-match. Lethal did beat Gordon with a top rope cutter, followed by lethal injection, but Bully Ray comes out kind of as a follow-up from the Battle Royal, gets into it with Lethal and Gordon. That brings out Colt Cabana, who baby faces have the advantage here at this point. They put Bully Ray through a table. Good way to kind of finish off that storyline that started with the all those guys in that over budget battle royal. Then we go to the top 3 matches of this card are really pretty freaking strong. I'll talk about the Okada Marty Scurll match in a second, but let's roll back to Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. This was real good. I think this probably was between Cody and Aldis, Omega and Pentagon, the women's 4-way. Those matches really hit particularly, so I enjoyed Kenny Omega, Pentagon Jr. I really enjoyed the post-match where Chris Jericho dressed up as Pentagon as well. Just awesome all around. And you see where that led was 2 parts. Jericho Cruiser was a 6-man where Jericho and Omega were at odds against each other. And then also rolling to Double or Nothing, the first AEW pay-per-view and event. That was the main event, Omega and Jericho. So they had plans already, clearly, from setting it up here at All In. Next, match 10. Oh, then another thing to note from this, looking back, is kind of curious and interesting. Wonder if they'll mention it tomorrow at All In, but at first All In, Chris Jericho actually knocked Don Callis on his ass at the announcer's desk. So there was kind of something going on between Jericho and Callis as far as a storyline or heat. We've been back 5 years ago at the first All In. And then we go to match 10, Kazuchika Okada and the villain Marty Scurll, another guy that has fallen from grace out of favor in the industry. And really a lot of controversy behind this match because Scurll was either given match cues wrong or was going into business for himself. That seems to be the overreaching opinion, that he went to business for himself and kept adding time to this match with Okada. And it went like over 10 to 15 minutes over the allotted match time it was supposed to have. And because of that, it threw the main event in turmoil. They did not have a lot of time to do much of anything in the main event because this match had so much time. In fact, I think it went 25 minutes or 24 minutes or something like that, possibly over that. And yeah, it was long in the tooth. There was some good spots, no question, but it just went way too long. But the crowd was way, way behind Marty Scurll at this time. And big crowd reactions for Okada as well. But once they went to that finish, Rainmaker, Okada wins, they rush, and I mean rush, to the main event. Like Okada's music goes for, 5 seconds after the finish, and they immediately go, okay, folks, it's time to get to the main event. They do they show the stuff on the screen for the main event. They immediately go to entrances for the next match, the main event. So at this point, they were already scrambling. So it caused a lot of headaches in the back. I think that was kind of the impetus of where things started going astray with Scurll and the rest of the crew. If you recall, Scurll stayed with Ring of Honor after All Elite Wrestling was kind of formed and things like that. So then beyond that, we all know what else happened with Marty Scurll, unfortunately. So then we get to the main event. Like I said, real rushed. They only had less than 10 minutes of time. Young Bucks, Kota Ibushi against Rey Fenix, Bandito, and just before he's about to go back to WWE, Rey Mysterio Jr. for what it was. And it had to be rushed, but it felt like the match was going in about time and a half speed, for one thing, which is what it is. Because it was a lucha-style match, it was kind of acceptable, I think, to a degree. The pace of it was very fast-paced. Near the end, though, it was very clear they were running short on time, trying to rush to get to the spots they needed to get to, and here via the ring mics still was going on even as I watched this feed 5 years later after the show. You could still hear the communication between the Bucks, the referee, different competitors trying to get to the finish. They literally got to the finish. It was the Meltzer driver right as time was to be cut off a pay-per-view. They reached that 4-hour window, and they barely cleared it by literally seconds. Meltzer driver finish, pin. They announce him as the winner. Ian Riccaboni doesn't even get time to sign off properly, and they're off air. Just a wild circumstance there, no question about it. Then I got onto YouTube. I watched BTE being the elite again, which was the particular episode from All In before and after it, which covered the entire speech they did in the ring. Young Bucks, Cody, Kenny Omega. Everybody was there except Marty Scurll of the crew, noticeably, because of probably some heat on him because of going so over in the time and really throwing the pay-per-view main event off. Confetti, pyro, like I said, everybody came out. Ray Mysterio, thanked the crowd first and foremost. I thought that was cool. Then Omega and Cody came out. Matt Jackson did quite a lengthy speech, as well as did Cody, which it's weird looking back now a little bit, like especially with All In London. It is a shame that Cody left AEW. I wish he wouldn't have had to. Just so he could have stayed with the group, you know, they were a very cohesive unit for sure. But this felt special in the post-match after the pay-per-view signed off. It was really cool. Cody even name-dropped Double or Nothing, so they already had plans to do another one if this was successful, which clearly was. And, of course, Tony Khan hooked up with them, and the rest is history, as they say. This was a fun show to revisit. You know, if you got a couple hours before All In tomorrow, I'd say try to get on Honor Club, check it out yourself. It is a really fun revisit to look back at the first All In, leading into the next iteration, the second All In, which is going to be a huge show tomorrow with over 80,000 in attendance from Wembley Stadium in London, England. So what we're going to do here at Wrestling Rants, we're going to try to get a Laying the Rant Down in with a preview and predictions of All In London. And then, of course, we will be doing a mega rant after All In tomorrow, particularly after the media scrum ends tomorrow after All In. Keep your eyes peeled and keep your notifications on, because I am going to be doing a live mega rant on AEW All In immediately following the All In media scrum. So there'll be some details from the scrum talk about on the live mega rant of All In with my thoughts on top to bottom, start to finish of what is going to be one of the wildest, biggest, craziest, most surreal spectacles in pro wrestling history. Hopefully. All right, till then, come on back. We're going to get some predictions and preview before All In tomorrow morning. So stay tuned. Come on back for more. All In Weekend is here. Right here. Wrestling.